In this example, we want to simplify the rational expression 5x squared minus 20 divided by x squared plus x minus 6. Now remember, in all of these rational expressions simplification problems, we want to make sure that we find the domain first, just in case we need it later, and then we will simplify. So the domain, we start off with all real numbers. So all reals is how I abbreviate it. And then remember, all I'm looking for is my exceptions. Where do I find my exceptions? I find them in the denominator. So I take the denominator, x squared plus x minus 6, and I set it equal to 0, and then solve that equation. Okay, so this factors into, let's see, to get the first term x squared, I would need an x and an x. To get the negative 6, I need two factors that would multiply to give me that negative 6, but then when I add them up, I get a positive 1 for this, positive 1x. So those factors, we could use either negative 3 and positive 2, or we could use positive 3 and negative 2. I think those would work a little better, so let's use positive 3 and negative 2. So let's check real quick. I'm going to multiply just the outer and the inner portions of the FOIL formula. Remember, that's what will give me the correct middle term here. So outer is negative 2x. Inner is positive 3x. So 3x minus 2x is 1x. So that checks our factoring is just fine. Alright, so we've got x plus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. And we're going to use the zero factor property and set each of these equal to 0, then solve. So that means x plus 3 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0. So subtract 3 from both sides on this one, and I have x equals negative 3. That's my first exclusion value for the domain. And let's go over here and add 2 on both sides of this equation. So we learn that x equals 2 is the other value that we're going to exclude. Okay, so the domain of this rational expression is all real numbers where x cannot equal negative 3 or 2. Alright, with that being said, let's go ahead and get it simplified. So rewrite the original problem, 5x squared minus 20 divided by x squared plus x minus 6. Now, let's look at the work that we did for the domain. Let's not let it go to waste. We already did the work factoring the polynomial in the bottom. So let's go ahead and use that. So I have x plus 3 and x minus 2. So the denominator is completely factored. In the numerator, I notice that I have a common 5 factor between the two. In fact, that's the GCF. So let's pull that GCF to the front. That means I have 5 times x squared minus 4. And then you should notice that x squared minus 4 is the difference of squares. So that factors into, rewrite my 5, x plus 2 times x minus 2. And then just carry the denominator over. X plus plus 3 times x minus 2. Okay, now let's look to see what we get to cancel. It looks like the only common factor between the numerator and the denominator is x minus 2. So let's cancel that out. And then what remains, I'll just write it down here so I have more room, is 5 times x plus 2 over x plus 3. Now remember before what I had said, that when there's only a single factor left either in the denominator or in the numerator, that you don't need the parentheses anymore. So in the denominator I do not need these parentheses. And in fact in the numerator, if I want to distribute this 5 back out into this binomial, then there wouldn't be any parentheses anywhere. So let's go ahead and do that. So distribute the 5, so I get 5x plus 10. So the parentheses are gone in the numerator. And then in the denominator we only have x plus 3. So no parentheses needed there. So this is the simplified form of our original rational expression.